My name is Chase Gordon, and today I'm going to be talking about disaster management in Guatemala. Guatemala borders a couple of Central American nations, as well as the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. The nation lies along a major fault line, has a total of 37 volcanoes, and 3 of those are active. Their disaster management agency, known as CONRED, was founded in 1996 following the 36-year-long Guatemalan Civil War. CONRED stands for National Coordination for Disaster Reduction. If you look to the history of disaster management in Guatemala, you could see their ability to respond has increased over time. If you look to the 1976 earthquake before CONRED was founded, you could see that response and recovery was led mostly by other nations. If you look to Hurricane Stan, though, in 2005, you see that the government was able to provide CONRED with $135 million in relief aid. If you look further, or to more recent times, in 2018, when the Fuego volcano erupted, CONRED was able to mobilize workers almost immediately for search and rescue operations. When it comes to implementation patterns in Guatemala, there is no clear indication whether or not they use a top-down or bottom-up approach. The only clear indication is that they rely heavily on interinstitutional cooperation. This leads me to believe that Guatemala has a more confused implementation pattern. With almost a dozen hazards to worry about, Guatemala ranks 5th among countries with economic risk exposure to 3 or more natural hazards. 83% of the nation's GDP is located in areas that are considered to be at risk for these hazards. When it comes to planning, though, the CONRED website has procedures dedicated to the response of disasters. In terms of civilians, procedures exist for what to do before, during, and after floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, landslides, hurricanes, and fires. For the government, protocol exists regarding fire season, temperature drop season, and how to care for animals in the event of a disaster. A couple of national participants in Guatemala's disaster management include their support agencies at the regional, department, and local levels, as well as the National System of Urban and Rural Development to ensure that land use codes and building codes are being enforced, and the National Institute for Seismology, Volcanology, Meteorology, and Hydrology to help anticipate potential disasters. They also work very limited with the military, mostly restricted to transporting needed supplies. International participants in disaster management in Guatemala include the United States Agency for International Development, which gave $300,000 in relief aid after the Fuego eruption of 2018. And then the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery has invested in disaster planning in Guatemala to help them prepare for potential disasters. And the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent has given relief multiple times, including after a 7.2 magnitude earthquake in 2012. Obstacles to effective disaster management include money, because Guatemala is a poor developing nation with 75% of their population living below the poverty line. This has only allowed CONRED to have a budget of around $4 million in 2009. They are also stretched far too thin, with only 155 people working full-time to plan for disasters that can affect up to 17 million people. Corruption has also been an issue in Guatemala, with a landslide in 2015 that occurred in an area that has been at risk for 7 years, and nothing had been done to change it. Some have pointed to corruption as being the reason that no changes were made in that time. Disasters of the past have helped shape today's policy in Guatemala. Construction and building codes have been created to help reinforce buildings and make sure that earthquakes are less disastrous. Land use laws and regulations have also been established, making sure that public spaces have open areas in the case of evacuation being necessary from buildings. Land use laws have also been created in regards to climate change, because it has been noted that climate change has increased the severity and frequency of disasters. These are the references that I used throughout my presentation today, and thank you for watching.